All right, guys, my name is Ty Udi, and I am going to be showing you today how to get started with WebAssembly. So to learn a little bit, I use this tutorial, getting started with WebAssembly, using only 14 lines of JavaScript. It's pretty simple. So basically it explains a little bit and tells us how to get started, but WebAssembly is basically a way to embed C, C++, I guess you can use Rust to put these generally faster languages into our browser side web apps. So it opens up a lot of possibility because before with JavaScript, sometimes you couldn't run things as fast as you needed to, but now this new technology allows us to use these languages to run things at basically native speed, which is super fast compared to JavaScript. So it opens up a lot of possibility. So to get started, we are going to, okay, we're going to explain here what we do in this process to get it working. So first we write something in C, C++, we're going to C++, or C, I guess, it'll be the same. And then you compile it. You can either use an online compiler and download the file if it's a smaller project, or you can get something on the command line. And then we will include in the project and instantiate it into something that JavaScript can use. So let's get started with that. So we are going to be using, to compile, this guy, which looks just like this. Basically, you can write your C++ over here, compile it, and then look at all the assembly here, and that's what we'll use. So come over here. We have our C++ right here. So I'm going to write my C++ in a different window and just copy and paste it. So let's see. Make a new folder here for the video. Benefit. All right. Now let's make our file. We'll call it. Let's see. And pulling up here on my other screen, some notes. Okay, so in this file we want, it's a basic C file, put that at the top, and then we're just gonna make one function that we'll call later from our JavaScript. So this function is just going to, square a number that we'll pass in as a parameter here. And it's just going to return that. So return num times num. Okay, and that's the function that we'll be putting into our JavaScript from our C file here. Oops. So save and quit that. So now we have that. And so actually, let's open that back up. Let's copy and paste this, get rid of these line numbers. Copy and paste this into here. Okay, and now we can click on compile. Oh, error generated. Oh, ST. There it is. All right, compile. So this is an interesting thing about WebAssembly. So our function here is going to be accessible to us through the exports of our WebAssembly. So there's an export here and export here. So this we don't need to worry about much for now, but this is what our function got turned into. We can kind of see in here the name of our function, and then the compiler added on some other things. I think they're debugging symbols, but we just need to know that that is our function. So then if we come back to here and let's download this file here. So download, and then Let's grab the file. It's open in my other screen here. I'm just going to drag it from the Finder into here to get the file path. And then I'm going to copy it. Copy that file into here. And I'm going to rename it to, let's call it square.wasm. Okay, so that is the WebAssembly file extension, by the way. Okay, so now that we have that, now we need to make an HTML file and a JavaScript file that can run our square.wasm for us. So I'll put my notes for this as well. So let's just make a simple file that will do that for us. So our file was called square.wasm. So let's put that here, square. So we're going to need that square.wasm. And then also we're going to declare this variable here as well, where we'll be able to store our module. Okay, now let's make a function for loading the WebAssembly. I'll explain it as we go. So first, we're using this function, we'll pass in a file name. And then it will use the fetch API to get that file. And use a response. Let's type this out a bit. Guess we could just do some, well, we don't need the curly braces, so let's do response array buffer. So this is the general process that you use for turning or for creating something usable out of your WebAssembly file. So here's the array buffer. And then we will do another promise. And from that array buffer, it's the var function. So here we need to call the WebAssembly API and have it compile our bits. And after that, we then get a module back, module. And we can then console.log to make sure. Actually, let's save that for later. Just return something here. Return new WebAssembly.instance. So we're getting an instance of our module. So then whenever someone calls this function, and they can make a promise to it after it and save this instance to some variable. So that's exactly what we'll do. And so we'll call this good. And then here, now let's call this function. So whenever the script runs, we just call it initially. So load web assembly wasm file here. And then I'll do a promise here. Oops. Instance. So this is the instance that we're returning here, right? If we want to do something with it, and let's assign that to square, to our variable that we made at the top. Square equals instance dot. So this is what we're talking before. So those, let's see, these exports now are going to come back. Be important to us. So we need this name here because it is going to be the property of our instance that holds the square function. So that, paste it here. Oh, but I forgot. There's an exports. So the instance, and there's an exports member of the instance object, and then of the exports. One export, two export, we have our function. So there's that one. And now we can just console.log here to make sure we finished our compiling. Finished compiling. There you go. But now let's go make an HTML file, index.html. And here, let me pull this up, pull up the note here real quick. Oops. Sorry about that. So let's put our doc type up here. Doc type, HTML, HTML, using tag, HTML, head tags. And here we'll put our script. And we'll need to add the source of the script, source script, index.js file. So that runs when we load the page. And now let's just put in some body in here to look at. So body, and we can put h1, heading, and then we can put, oops, some paragraph. Okay, hopefully that looks good. So now we can open that up. And so the first time I did this, I realized that I wouldn't be able to use that fetch this if I wasn't running from a local server because of CORS issues. So I downloaded this npm module called HTTP server, and it seemed pretty nice. So just like this, HTTP server. Then I say I want to start my server from here, and here we go. Started it up. Now I can just go to localhost 8080, and I should see my localhost 8080, my page. And now if I go to inspect, and drag this over here, and go to my console, so we see that message that we finished our compiling. And I think this is something from the HTTP server module. I'm not sure. But we can try and call our function. There it is, our square function. And we can pass in some number. And there's what we got. So if you remember, so that is what got returned from the square function, right? So if we go back to here and we look at program.c, that is exactly what our program did, was square a number. So we have successfully embedded our C++ file into our web page. Thanks for watching, guys.